When Joe Rogan got wind of the possibility of a Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, the MMA commentator and seasoned fight analyst didn't hold back. Picture this: Joe, eyes wide with incredulity, diving into one of his signature rants, a mix of disbelief and excitement filling the air. He knows, as well as any fight fan, that if this fight goes down, it's going to be a spectacle like no other. Possibly for all the wrong reasons depending on how you look at it. Now, Rogan has a deep respect for Tyson, a man whose name is synonymous with the word legend. When he talks about Tyson, you can hear the reverence in his voice. This is a guy who is not just a boxer but a force of nature, the kind of fighter who would step into the ring and change the entire atmosphere. Rogan often reminisces about Tyson's prime, those days when he would walk into the ring with nothing but his raw power and the aura of inevitability. In his heyday, Tyson wasn't just winning fights, he was ending careers. On the flip side, there's Jake Paul, a name that makes the older generation of boxing fans wince and the newer generation cheer. He's brash, he's bold, and he's got the social media clout to turn any fight into a headline event. But Rogan, with his decades of experience in combat sports, knows that clout and bravado can only take you so far when you're facing someone who's been forged in the fires of real battle. Rogan's take on the fight, pure skepticism laced with just enough curiosity to make it compelling. He knows that, technically, Tyson is far beyond his prime. At 58, no one expects Tyson to have the speed or endurance of his younger self. But this is Tyson we're talking about, a man whose muscle memory is filled with the devastating power that made him the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Joe doesn't mince words when he talks about the disparity between the two fighters. Tyson's hands are still fast enough, his instincts sharp enough, to dismantle someone like Jake Paul if they were to meet in the ring. In one of his podcasts, Rogan even chuckled at the thought of Paul's confidence. Jake might be young, he might have the energy, Joe would say, but Tyson's got that killer instinct. He doesn't just fight to win, he fights to destroy. Jake Paul would be stepping into the ring with a man who was bred to demolish opponents. The idea of Jake Paul standing across the ring from Mike Tyson, who has lived through battles that most can't even imagine, almost seems like a fantasy. A wild, somewhat reckless fantasy. But Rogan's analysis doesn't just stop at the fight itself. He delves into the why. Why would Jake Paul even consider taking on someone like Tyson? Is it the ultimate publicity stunt? Or does Paul genuinely believe he can outmaneuver a fighter of Tyson's caliber? Rogan leans toward the former. For Paul, this is another way to prove that he can hang with the big boys, to continue his quest of legitimizing himself as a fighter, even if it means risking a very public, very painful defeat. When Rogan speculates on how the fight might unfold, his tone shifts from one of amusement to one of concern. Tyson, even now, is not a man to be taken lightly. Sure, he's older, but the ferocity with which he trains and the raw power he still possesses could spell disaster for Paul. In one scenario Rogan lays out, Tyson could take a few rounds to feel Paul out, let the younger fighter wear himself out, and then, boom, land a punch that Paul never sees coming. Rogan doesn't hesitate to remind listeners that Tyson's punch is still as lethal as ever, a fact that has been well documented in the countless training videos that have surfaced online. And then there's the aftermath. Rogan imagines the potential fallout of such a fight. If Tyson were to knock out Paul, what would that do to Paul's carefully crafted image? How would the world of boxing, and indeed the world of social media, react to seeing one of its most polarizing figures humbled in such a dramatic way? Rogan can see it now. The memes, the think pieces, the endless commentary on what it means for the sport of boxing. But Rogan also touches on the darker side of this matchup. He questions the morality of pitting a seasoned, albeit older fighter like Tyson against someone who is still relatively new to the sport. Is it a fair fight? Is it something that should even happen? Rogan's tone becomes almost somber as he reflects on the potential risks involved. Not just for Paul, who could face serious harm, but for Tyson as well, who might be putting himself in a situation that, at his age, could be dangerous. In the end, Rogan's take on the whole situation is clear. It's a fight that, while exciting in theory, carries with it a heavy dose of reality. This isn't just another YouTube stunt or a cash grab. It's a fight that, should it happen, could have serious consequences for both men.